Oh, Bolivia. I'm not a fan of your politics, and a little bit more on that later. But how I love you, I love your landscapes, I love your people, but most of all, I love your coffee.
My name is Steve Layton, and I travel the world finding amazing and delicious coffee for you to drink at home. Some make coffee difficult to understand and complicated, but here it's my job to make it easy and fun and tell you what's in my mug.
So this week we've got a Bolivian, and it's Alasitas washed Caturra. Now Alasitas is owned by the Rodriguez family, who have 12 farms. Alasitas was the third farm that they bought, and he's 20 hectares inside, which is unusually large for like a farm in Bolivia, of 16 hectares that are producing coffee. It's laid out beautifully. Daniela describes the plantings. They look like fingerprints. I'm going to show you some pictures on the screen now. When you look from one of the mountains, it straddles across 3 different peaks, and it is just jaw-dropping. It is the most amazing place. I had the honour of being the first person to ever stop on the farm. So they've recently built a house there, and they gave me the keys and left me there overnight. So I set my alarm at 4 o'clock, and I'm going to show you a video now, which is a time lapse of the clouds rolling round the mountains, and it is just, jaw-droppingly beautiful. One of the most amazing natural sights I think I've ever seen. It's from Bolivia. It's from the town of Caranavi in the colony of Belinda. It's called Las Alasitas. It's owned by the Rodriguez family. It's around about 1,580 metres above sea level. It's Caturra, and it is a fully washed. So this week what we're going to do with the Alasitas is we're going to cup the Caturra that we have here against the Longbury, which is from the same farm, but is a different varietal. Now, as you can see on the screen now, in the Caturra, it's a little bit more of a fatter, kind of shorter bean, whereas with the Longbury, literally by its name, it is a longer bean. The Longbury kind of comes from Africa, mainly from the Ethiopian areas, which is very common to find these long beans. And it's something that they actually got from a producer that we know well on here, the Maresh family, who had this bean, and they've shared it with the Rodriguez's, along with some other varietals that they have on the farm. But what we're really interested in is to cook them with the taste. So I'm going to start with the Caturra. So here you have a very light and delicate coffee. Starts off kind of like, the descriptor I've used is peach squash. So, diluted peach squash that you would buy, like Robinson's kind of things. It's very sweet. It's very smooth. It has a really good structure to it. It has a little bit of like a not a watermelon, like a honeydew melon kind of finish to it. And the thing I like most is the aftertaste about this, because it's so sweet. It ends up, and we argued about this on the cupping table a little while, but it has like a pink flump taste, and it also had that pink flump taste in the cup when you're drinking it. What is a pink flump? It's like a little marshmallowy kind of sweet if you're from the UK, you probably will know. So let's go and try it against the Longbury. So what I feel happens with the Longbury is that everything gets a little bit more magnified, and in particular the acidity. So this is much kind of sharper. Instead of peach squash, it's like a little bit lemon-like. It's got a real citrus kind of kick element to it. It's a little bit more transparent and lacks a little bit of the sweetness that you find in this one, but it is increased acidity that you really notice with it, and its transparency. Always fun to cup coffees from the same farm, gone through the same process, just a slightly different coffee varietal, and the differences that can make in the cup. So this week we're going to have a little bit of a change, and we're going to do a little bit on politics of Bolivia, because it's something that obsesses me. I'm so interested in what happens there. And I think mainly because the first time I went to Bolivia was actually during the election of this president, that's the current sitting one. It's President Evo Morales, and he's forging ahead with his bid to win a 4th term in next year's elections, despite opposition. and being branded as unconstitutional. As I said, he first came to power in 2006, and I remember being there in 2005, and the real changes that kind of were happening in Bolivia. You really got to see it firsthand. Already winning 3 elections, even like despite Bolivians in 2009 saying that they couldn't change the constitution, it was limited that you were only meant to have 2 consecutive terms in office. However, the country's constitutional court filed with government loyalists that ruled in favour of Morales allowing to stand in 2014. They've rejected 11 appeals against him seeking a 4th term. There's strikes, there's protests, there's marches that have led to opposition groups failing to deter Morales, who was the first indigenous person to be president in the country. He tried to change the constitution in 2016, and I remember being there during this election too, which would allow him to seek unlimited terms in office. But he actually lost that referendum, which was a bit of a shock because although Morales is kind of bordering on a dictator, he does have a lot of support from the indigenous people of Bolivia and the people who are the majority of voting. His government decided to reject the results because they didn't like the result. Sounds a little bit Brexit-like, doesn't it? And the constitutional court, which are in his back pocket, have backed him, saying it's his human right to seek re-election, which seems a little bit corrupt. He's due to stand in his own movement for socialism, the MAS primaries, which is happening this month. And the Constitutional Court reject the appeals attempting to block him. So other people, even within his own party, have tried to block him, and the Constitutional Court is saying, no, he can still stand. Already the longest serving president in Bolivian history, Morales would remain in power for 19 years should he win next year's election and serve his 4th term. Protesters have extended to hunger strikes in some of Bolivia's major cities, and it really is kind of hotting up. It's been the guy in the hunger strike has been going on for a while now, and even the civil leader in Cochabamba has got involved, and they're really just trying to get Morales to respect the constitution and the laws. Is their argument? Difficult times in a difficult country. A country that has so much natural resource as well. So hopefully there'll be some more positive change from there. And if stuff changes, I'll promise to tell you here. So we've cooked this one already, so I've kind of spoilt the ending a little bit. But at least we're a little aware of what we're going to be tasting. Let's dive in. So unlike the cupping, where at the front I saw lots of peach to start off with, what you see in the cup when it's brewed is that pink flumps, that marshmallow kind of sweetness and texture. It's very thick and smooth. You do get a little bit of the peach still, but you definitely get that melon that we were tasting on the cupping table as well. I think this will make an absolutely excellent espresso. So if you're at home and you want to try that, you should. And again, let me know what you think. But I think this is a great example of a fantastic Bolivian. That the older it gets, so this is its 6th year of production, it's going to get better. As the plants get more established, that the harvest gets more stabilised and consistent, I think this is a coffee that's just going to get better and better each year. Thank you for joining me, as always, and do remember, life is too short for bad coffee.